there is a Ferrari up to 4.
What if you could control the web with your mind? What if telekinesis was
Good evening and welcome to tonight's coverage of the Vintage Racer Group racing the Lotus 79 at Interlagos. This is Jim Karamanis bringing you Virtual Racer League coverage this evening. Forgive us as we fight a few technical difficulties, but we will be bringing you practice for the next 10 minutes, and then we'll jump into live qualifying. Bear with us as we repair our sound issue. Welcome again. This is Jim Karamanis with Vintage Racer Group, bringing you Virtual Racer League action from Interlagos tonight in the Lotus 79. We're almost finished with practice. We'll be setting off in qualifying. We're having a few technical issues tonight, so qualifying may not be very exciting visually, but we promise that you will get the full qualifying race and the full feature race. Bear with us as we make our way through our technical issues tonight. Hope you've enjoyed the season so far. After tonight, there's just one more race left in the season, as we'll wrap up at Sebring International Raceway, which many people don't realize was the spot of a Formula One race back in the 1960s. And of course, this season we've mirrored the Grand Prix that have taken place in the Americas. We've been to Canada. We've been to various locations in the United States. Of course, now here we are in Brazil. So the racers are on track beginning their 15-minute qualifying sessions. They get 15 minutes or 7 laps, whichever comes first. We are having a few issues with our cameras in qualifying tonight. We apologize for that, but we will be bringing you results shortly.
Smoke from the back of Berg. McLaren, that was smoking on the grid, as we saw, and somebody pulling off there. It's a Ferrari, is it? Or possibly a Dallara?
No, I think it was a Dallara, but anyway, it is McLaren, and then it is Patrese. It was Pirro who pulled off. Emanuele Pirro, the very unlucky Roman who went so well in qualifying at Phoenix and here, and off goes Tarquini. Already then, out are Tarquini and Pirro on lap 1.
Yes, Tarquini looks as if he'd made some contact. Now, out front, Ayrton Senna leading the race off the pole position, and there's been a lot of talk in the press before this race talking about Senna's home advantage, whatever that might mean, because I have to say that in my opinion, for Ayrton Senna, home is a disadvantage. He's under more pressure than normal here, and quite honestly, he's got such domination everywhere that winning without pressure is not a problem for him. Winning with pressure has been in the past, and we saw last year he attacked a back marker when he didn't need to when leading, and just think this sort of thing can happen. And the Williamses look very strong. They've been strong in qualifying. They were strong in the warm-up this morning, and so was Alain Prost, although he's starting from 6th place on the grid, and we'd expect to see him come more slowly through the race.
Well, already you can see the Ferrari of Jean Alesi is up behind Riccardo Patrese, with Nigel Mansell second in the race, but already 4/5 of a second, 8/10 of a second behind Ayrton Senna. The Brazilian is really getting the hammer down, doing what he always wants to do when he's got a clear track in front of him, and that is build up the maximum cushion, the maximum lead. We are expecting competitors to stop once for tyres between laps 20 and 30. That could change the complexion of the race, but meantime, Nigel Mansell in the Williams Renault with the semi-automatic
Again, this is the
gearbox,
VRG
which Damon
Virtual
Hill
Racer
has
League,
been
bringing
testing
you
in England
coverage from
between
Interlagos.
Phoenix and
Bear with us.
Brazil here.
We don't have cameras
He's going
tonight
well, and that
for
semi-automatic
qualifying,
gearbox
but we
seems to
will have our
have
qualifying race just in about 10 minutes. In the meantime, enjoy some coverage from the 1991 Brazil F1 Grand Prix.
Nelson Piquet. Prost, who was second fastest in the warm-up, is down in 7th place, ahead of Stefano Modena, 8th in the Tyrrell Honda. And so Ayrton Senna going as he means to continue, 1.5 seconds ahead.
I saw a car pulling off in the background there, but I don't think it was from the leading group. That may have been a car just completing another lap. And Senna, you see, throwing up water there from the rumble strip, bit of lying water. It's been very changeable weather here in Sao Paulo for the last 3 days. Senna will be keen, if he can, to try and get a bit of space between himself and Mansell, but that may not be easy, and Mansell will certainly have other ideas about it. The Williams really went very much as we've been expecting it to go. New car, not quite so good in Phoenix, but went very well here indeed, and seems to be fully competitive.
Well, you can see that because look at the gap between Nigel Mansell in second position, and here is Riccardo Patrese third, pulling away from Alesi fourth, Berger fifth, Piquet in sixth position, Prost is seventh, Modena there is eighth, and in ninth position was one of the Leighton House cars. I would suspect it to be Maurizio Gugelmin, notwithstanding the fact that the unfortunate Brazilian had a fire extinguisher explode in the car during the warm-up this morning and badly burned his back and legs, but he's been passed to drive by Professor Sid Watkins, who is FISA's resident doctor at all the Grand Prix, and of course Gugelmin will have an enormous amount of adrenaline flowing through his veins in Brazil in front of his home crowd, and that will wipe out a lot of the pain. But now, still on lap 4 in this 71 lap race, as we ride with Ayrton Senna, we are riding with the leader in the new McLaren MP4/6 with the Honda V12 engine, also new for 1991.
You booked a spacious Verbo summer home.
Once again, this is the VRG Virtual Racer League. We apologize for not being able to bring you qualifying photography. We are about 5 minutes left to go in the qualifying session, though. And then we'll bring you a 15-minute qualifying race, followed by a 30-minute feature race. Right now, Stefan Vappa is on top of qualifying at a 127.260. Jeff Underwood close behind at a 127.4. Darren Treacle currently third at a 127.675. Steve Ficacci in fourth. Dave Curtis rounding out your top 5. Once again, we bring you the sounds of the 1991 Formula One Grand Prix at Interlagos. Riding on board with the one and only Ayrton Senna.
Now we're with the Ferrari of Alain Prost, and ahead you can see Nelson Piquet. So now, from the driving seat, you can study the relative performance of the V12 Ferrari that you're riding with and the V8 Ford-powered Benetton of 3 times world champion Brazilian Nelson Piquet.
But Prost is closer now than he's been at any other stage in the race, and he'll be looking to go through the complex here and try and get a tow and challenge Piquet on the main straight, which they're about to come onto. Prost needs to be closer than he is to have a go on the straight. Not close enough this time. He may be better to try and do him on the uphill straight past the pits and into turn 1.
Lap 12 out of 71. Ayrton Senna leading Nigel Mansell by 2.3 seconds. Riccardo Patrese is 4.3 seconds behind Mansell in third place. Fourth is Alesi. Fifth is Berger. Sixth is Nelson Piquet. Seventh is Alain Prost. Eighth is Stefano Modena. In ninth position, excellent, Bertrand Gachot in the Jordan. In 10th position, it is Andrea De Cesaris in the second Jordan. This is the first race that both cars have got into. And then behind him, it is Roberto Moreno in the Benetton, leading Eric Bernard's Lola. And then it is Morbidelli, Gianni Morbidelli. And in 14th place, it is Ivan Capelli.
Once again, welcome to the VRL Interlagos. We have about 5 minutes left in our qualifying session. These are single qualifying lap sessions. Each driver drives individually. We're sorry we can't bring you video footage of this tonight, but we're about 5 minutes away from our qualifying race, which will be 15 minutes long, and then followed by a 30-minute feature race. In the meantime, enjoy the sounds of the 1991 Formula One Grand Prix of Brazil at Interlagos.
It's Bertrand Gachot on the right, the Belgian in the Ford-powered Jordan. And behind him you can see it is Roberto Moreno, the Brazilian. There's a lot of Brazilians in this race, of course. Moreno, Ayrton Senna, Nelson Piquet. Mauricio Gugelmin started it, but sadly has had to retire because of those fire extinguisher burns. Gabriele Tarquini is out of the Brazilian Grand Prix. Aguri Suzuki didn't even start. You remember he was wheeled away from the grid and has not started the race. And now Senna is coming up to start to lap people. It's one, and that's Nakajima out. Satoru Nakajima out. You can see the Japanese there. He's obviously not at all happy. He's saying, no, don't bother, I'm out of the race. And Prost into the pits now. Prost into the pits from 7th position. Let's see how that time goes. Is it a good one? It was 8 seconds, but it took 15 seconds at Phoenix. And Senna is getting closer to Mansell, or rather the other way around.
Well, that in fact was good tactics by Alain Prost, because he was stuck behind Nelson Piquet, and now that he's on fresh rubber, he may have a clearer track behind him so he can make time on the road, or that would certainly be the thinking involved. And if he was doing his homework, he would have checked with the Ferrari pit that the road wasn't too crowded behind. So there is Alain Prost on fresh tyres as the leaders go by in a Leighton House park beside the road, so that must be Capelli's car.
Yes, Capelli out, and Alain Prost rejoined in 11th place, having put on a new set of tyres.
And welcome once again to Interlagos. This is Jim Karamanis with Vintage Racer Group, bringing you VRL coverage from Interlagos, tonight in the Lotus 79. We're about 2 minutes from our first race of the night, which will be a 15-minute qualifying race. Currently, looks like the grid is set. I believe all our racers have completed their laps. So right now, it's looking like Darren Treacle will be on the pole for the first time this season. First driver to dip in the 126 range at a 126.9. Oh, and Steve Ficacci at the last minute eclipses Treacle out, turns a 126.688, beating Treacle by 0.3. Ficacci came into the session a little late tonight, so looks like he's got a little bit longer to stay on track because he started his qualifying a little later. Treacle currently in second. Stefan Vappa rounding out the top three. Underwood at a 127.4 is in fourth place. Dave Curtis in fifth. Robert Lang is in sixth place. Carlos Bonds in seventh. Jim Graziano in eighth, and Mac McCormack in ninth place. So very shortly we'll have our grid as the seconds click down on the single qualifying. We do hope you've enjoyed this season's racing action in the Lotus 79. Quite different than the Audi 90s that we brought you last season. This, of course, being the car that Mario Andretti won the World Championship in 1978. So lone qualifying is finished, and we have a grid. And there you go. We have cars on track. Stefan Vappa's on track, as is Bob Lang and Mac McCormack. And we are currently awaiting our other drivers on track. Underwood and Curtis now in their cars. Start finish here at Interlagos is uphill. Turn 1, very tight corner. Almost 180 degrees, takes you back downhill. Makes for a very challenging race start. Still waiting for our top two to come to the grid. And Ficacci is on the grid. Still waiting for Treacle. And because it's uphill, we have a difficult time actually seeing the cars with our forward camera. So here we are, just a few seconds for rolling off the grid. This is a standing start, pure F1 style this entire season. Here we go. We have lights. We will get a race start now, and we're off. Ficacci with a good start. Treacle with a terrible start. Falling way down the grid. Treacle makes his way past Bonds. Treacle's back up to 4th place. Ficacci and Vappa out front. Vappa trying to make a run on Ficacci. Underwood very close behind. Top 3 beginning to pull away from the rest of the field. Although Treacle is the man on the move now. Doing his best to catch the top 3. Going on board now with Treacle. Treacle chasing the top 3. Coming back around to the final corner on the start-finish straight. He actually used part of pit road when entering the backstretch. Top 4 all very close together. Just a few tenths of a second between each driver. Vappa and Focacci starting to put a little bit of space on Underwood. Top four all very close together still. Jumping back to the battle for fifth. Bob Lang following Carlos Bonds in search of Dave Curtis. Lang may have a run on Bonds. Lang with a passing opportunity. He's in the draft. He attempts the move. He's successfully by. Nice clean pass. Good job of racing by both drivers. Heads up driving there. Back up front, Focacci still in the lead. Vappa with the fastest lap of the race so far at 127.1. Again, this is a qualifying race. This will set the grid for the feature. Winning here is not essential. Being on the top front row probably is, though. Not an easy track to pass at. Really, the start-finish straight is your only major passing opportunity. Focacci and Vappa out front, battling out. Underwood and Treacle close together. Battle for third. Entering the start-finish straight. Treacle not close enough to make a move this time. Neither is Vappa on Focacci. Good clean driving by all four. Vappa as close as he's been. Under a half second between these two. Focacci has thus far dominated the season. With 2 races left and 2 race drops available, Focacci's pretty much wrapped up the season championship. But none of the drivers have anything to lose tonight. Next week will be our season finale at Sebring. Then we'll take a break for a couple weeks as the VRG visits the Lime Rock Park. VRG, of course, taking part in the memorial festivities of the Lime Rock Historics. Racing at the Historics takes place Friday, Saturday, and Monday with a wonderful car show on Sunday. If you're in the area, it is a spectator event this year. We are back to normal, and we'd love to have you out to watch some racing action. Of course, the Vintage Racer Group will be on track. The Vintage Sports Car Club of America will be on track. Some of the most wonderfully exclusive vintage race cars in the world will be attending. Focacci continuing to hold off Vappa, Underwood continuing to hold off Treacle. About halfway through this qualifying race. Nathan Luce, just reading your comment on Facebook. Vintage Racer Group races at Thompson in June each year. I believe you are thinking about our good friends at the HRG, the Historic Racing Group, who race at Thompson a couple times a year. HRG, I'm pretty sure, races in October, and they were just at Thompson last weekend. So Focacci continuing to hold a strong lead now. He's over a second from Vappa. Battle for third is a little closer. Treacle just a couple tenths off of Underwood, attempting the pass. Not quite there. Both drivers being very careful. Treacle keeping the pressure on. They're side by side now. Treacle now has the inside line, and he completes the pass. Once again, good heads-up driving by both drivers. Underwood attempting to come back. Looks like we've had another pass on track. Let's see if we can pick it up. Here's Mac McCormack working on Jim Graziano. Jim Graziano, of course, using the Newman Haas livery of the 1980s, made famous by Mario Andretti. And McCormack with a nice clean pass. Both drivers doing a great job. Carlos Bonds had an incident. Let's see if we can pick it up here. Bonds just gets a couple tires off and goes around. Back to live action. Focacci now with a 1.5 lead on Vappa. And another question from Nathan on Facebook. Yes, the Vintage Racer Group is one of the sanctioning bodies at Lime Rock Park on Memorial Day. We do partner with Skip Barber and Murray Smith, and we'll be there in just a couple weeks. So we've got about 3 minutes left in this qualifying race. Battle for third, still the closest battle on track. Underwood, since getting passed by Treacle, has stuck to him like glue. Let's see if he's close enough to make a move. We head back towards the start-finish straights. He's in the draft. Not quite close enough to make a move. Back up front, Focacci now with a 2-second lead over Vappa. On board now with Steve Focacci. Enjoy the sounds of the Lotus 79 with its forward power. Beautiful racetrack in the middle of a vibrant city. Fakachi using the entire track and more. Treacle has now increased his lead. Just over a second between Treacle and Underwood now. Looks like Mac McCormack has gone off the track, which has allowed Jim Graziano to get back by. Let's see if we can see what happened to McCormack. Oh, that looks like the same corner where Bonds went off. Probably on the final lap here. Underwood continuing to attempt to hunt down Treacle. White flag is out. And indeed, it's checkers for Fakachi, followed by Vappa, Treacle, and Underwood. Those are your top four for our 30-minute feature race tonight. Dave Curtis in fifth. Carlos Bonds making his way down the start-finish straight to take sixth position. Graziano also rounds the final corner for a seventh position. McCormack will finish eighth. Bob Lang will finish ninth. See if we can figure out what happened to Bob Lang. Lang was having a strong race, but we did lose the replay as we head to the grid. So once again, it's Fakachi on the pole, Vap on the outside pole. Third place is Treacle, fourth Underwood, fifth Curtis, sixth Bonds, seventh Graziano, eighth McCormack, and ninth Bob Lang. Once again our grid forms up. And we're getting our lights. And we have a race. Drivers are off. Treacle once again with a terrible start. Drops way back. Kachi once again out front quickly. Followed by Vappa, Underwood, Bonds, Treacle, and Curtis. Bob Lang and Jim Graziano have both had incidents at the beginning of the race. Bob Lang is in the pits. We'll stay with the action up front for now. Darren Treacle back to fifth position now. Followed by Curtis, McCormack, and Graziano. Underwood now very close to Vappa. Treacle getting closer to Bonds as we approach the final corner and the backstretch. Treacle with a lunge on Bonds. A little too far back to make a real move. I'm sure Bonds is feeling Treacle's presence. Treacle now making the move. Will get by Bonds. Both drivers keeping their heads straight with that one. Treacle will attempt to run down Jeff Underwood once again. Treacle must be kicking himself. He's had the speed tonight. But the starts are absolutely killing him. Up front, Vappa and Ficacci. Vappa all over Ficacci. Vappa, he's in the draft. Opportunity to make a pass here. Vappa rides the draft. Pulls out. Backs out of it. Keeping the pressure on. Next passing opportunity is right here. Vappa pulls out. He's alongside Ficacci. Ficacci 4 wheels off. They're side by side now. Ficacci now has the inside lane. Some exciting stuff. This has allowed Jeff Underwood and Darren Treacle to close the gap to the leaders. It's now a 4-horse race. Underwood under Vappa. Treacle all over Underwood now. Ficacci and Vappa pull out a slight lead over Underwood this time around. Top 4 have now put a gap on the rest of the field. 1 second total between the top 4 drivers. Treacle is closing the gap to Underwood once again. Vappa just out of the grasp of Underwood. Doing a very good job of keeping with Ficacci. Keep in mind it's not easy to follow in these cars. You do experience some aerodynamic wash when you follow closely. Ficacci the only car with clear air at the moment, as these 4 are still pretty jammed up. Vappa's close. Oh! Ficacci pulling hard to break the draft. I'm not sure if that achieved the goal or not. They're as close as they've been. Vappa with a good opportunity. Not quite close enough to make the move. Fakachi doing a good job of making his car wide. Once again, that battling has allowed Underwood to close the gap. And it's a 4-horse race once again. Treacle desperately trying to get by Underwood. All 4 drivers doing a wonderful job. Treacle all over Underwood now. He will have the draft as they enter the backstretch. Pulls out a little early. Underwood on the inside. Treacle attempting to make the move on the outside. I don't know if that's going to work. It does work. He has the position. Darren Treacle does his best now to head out after Stefan Vappa. Beautiful pass, great driving by both drivers. Fastest lap of the race so far by Stefan Vappa at a 1:26.67. The top 4 have all turned fast laps within a couple tenths of each other. Vappa once again closing the gap to Fakachi. It's under a half second. We still have over 20 minutes left in this feature race. Long time to go. Anything can happen as close as these 4 are. Fakachi extends the gap just by a couple tenths over Vappa. Gap to Treacle remains pretty constant. Top 3 drivers on that lap were all on the 127s. Underwood beginning to push Treacle again. Vappa once again closing the distance to Fakachi, but closing the distance and making the pass, 2 very different things. Top 4 continuing to run together. Fakachi just over a half-second lead to Vappa. Vappa, who's won the last 5 VRL seasons in a row, watching his championship hopes slip away as Fakachi once again leads yet another Grand Prix. Darren Treacle, who won the first 2 seasons, has not seen a win for a while. I'm sure he'd love to find himself in winner's circle. Treacle now getting a little closer to Vappa. Underwood hanging in there. Underwood now turning some of his fastest laps of the race. Vappa is currently the fastest driver on track, but it's not quite enough to get by Focacci. Once again, Focacci's very safe as he goes through turn 1. Treacle running one of the fastest laps of the race. Substantially closing the gap to Vappa now. Underwood starting to lose the pack now. Quickly becoming a 3-horse race. Let's see if we can get a battle up front so that Underwood can get back in it. Right now it looks like Treacle is poised to make a move on Vappa. This could be exactly what Focacci needs in order to get a little bit more space between himself and Vappa. Vappa now having to be a little defensive as Treacle closes the gap to him. Treacle now takes advantage of the draft to close the gap a bit more. On board now with Treacle. Not much between the top 4 still in lap times. All very close together. Focacci just laid down the fastest lap of the race at a 1:26.45. Treacle once again using the entire track and then some. As they approach the start-finish straight. Is he in the draft enough to make a move? It does not look like it. All three of the top 3 about a half second apart, running virtually identical lap times. Just over halfway through this race. Our top 3 still Focacci, Vappa, and Treacle. Underwood in 4th, and Dave Curtis way behind him in 5th place. Curtis and Bonds having a little battle of their own, a couple seconds apart from each other. But the key battle on track still up front here among the top three. Separated by a few tenths. Vappa pulls a little bit of a gap now to Treacle. Vappa closing the gap to Focacci. He's as close as he's been all race. Vappa finding the speed. Has he done a better job of preserving his tires? He now seems to have a jump on the other two. Focacci once again opens the gap back up. Nine laps to go in this feature event. Treacle closing the gap back up to Vappa. Not close enough to make a move though. Once again we'll traverse turn one in the same order. Top three still all together. Eight laps left in this feature race. We do hope you're enjoying tonight's Vintage Racer Group VRL coverage from Interlagos. This is Season 8. And these are the last two races of our Grand Prix of America series in the Lotus 79. Our top three drivers are putting on a clinic now as they gap the rest of the field. Although Underwood is holding on, he can still see that lead pack. He's just waiting for a small mistake so that he can get back into this, shooting for a podium position. Top three still glued together. Boy, wouldn't it be great if actual Grand Prix racing was this close? Top three all within a half second of each other. No push to pass here, no DRS, no cheating. They have to do it with driver skill. Interlagos with its very fast corners, lots of elevation change, is an exciting track, but it's not a particularly easy track to pass at. Vappa sliding allows Treacle to close the gap. Focacci now opening up the gap just a bit, almost to a second. Treacle once again will try to use the draft to close up the gap to Vappa. But Vappa just seems to be a bit faster in the first sector. By the time they get to the third, the gap is just too much once again for Treacle to make a move. Six laps to go. Gap stays pretty consistent between the top three this lap, as we once again approach the start-finish straight. Treacle once again not close enough to get a run on. Vappa doing a better job of getting through turn one. Seems to gap Treacle every time they go through there. Akachi once again maintaining his lead. Akachi's been pretty constantly about 3/4 of a second ahead of Vappa for the entire race. Treacle, with some late braking, lights up a tire. That puts a little extra gap between himself and Vappa. Stefan seems to be falling back from Fakachi a bit. I wonder if some tires are starting to get a little long in the tooth. Fakachi has not had to follow anyone all race. He's had no aerodynamic wash to worry about. I think his front tires are just in better shape than the other drivers. Vappa and Treacle have been following cars closely the entire race. Their front tires must be suffering. This could be where Fakachi checks out, and indeed, the gap to Vappa is almost 2 seconds now. I think the tires are going off for everyone else. Fakachi and being up front, the advantage now is really starting to show as we're 4 laps left in the race. Fakachi is maintaining some of the fastest lap. In fact, he's going faster than he's gone all race. Look at that. A 1:26.31. It's the fastest lap of the race. Treacle now closing the gap to Vappa. This is as close as those two have been. Vappa pushed so hard so long to catch Fakachi. I think his tires have paid the price. Question is, does Treacle have enough tire left to make a run? We saw him lock up earlier. They're both obviously suffering. Three laps to go. Treacle's close, but again, too far back to make a move. Vappa seems to have turn one down, but Treacle making a little bit of a lunge here. This is as close as he's been. Let's see if he can make a move here. Vappa going a bit defensive. Treacle goes for it. Oh, that's close. They were so close. Treacle will have to keep that momentum and try to keep that gap close so that he can make another run as they approach the start-finish straight. He's all over Vappa now. Vappa clearly fighting traction issues. Treacle turning his fastest lap of the race. Vappa once again just a little bit faster in that final section. This is the closest Treacle has been to Vappa entering the start-finish straight, though. What can he do with the draft here? It's just 1/4 of a second between them. He might be close enough to make a lunge into one, and he does! They're side by side, and Treacle has the position. No! Vappa fights it off. Great defensive driving there. Treacle has the run now, though. He's around the outside. I don't think he's going to get it done there. He's pushing hard. Vappa maintains the inside line. He will have the preferred line into the corner. Oh, they nearly touch again, but Treacle has the position. With 2 laps to go, Treacle has made the pass. Treacle, Vappa, identical fast laps of the race. 2/100ths of a second slower than Focacci's fastest lap of the race. Underwood now, because of this battle, reeling Vappa in. Underwood sniffing a podium position here. Underwood much faster than Vappa that last lap. But I don't think he's going to have the time to close that gap. Treacle slowly opening a gap to Vappa. Oh, and Focacci putting a stamp down with the fastest lap of the race. First driver into the 125s. Vappa makes a lunge in turn 1 at Treacle. He's not going to make it. That may have cost him. That's closed the gap to Underwood. It may be too little too late for Underwood, though. The best passing opportunities are gone. Final lap. Mac McCormack has crashed. He's off the track. We're sticking with the battle for second, though. Underwood closing the gap. Focacci already entering the start-finish straight. Focacci has done it. A clean sweep this season for Steve Focacci with another win. Treacle second. Vappa holds on to a podium spot in third. Underwood very close fourth. Dave Curtis rounding the final corner to grab his top 5 spot. Well done, Dave. Followed closely by Carlos Bonds in the Hello Kitty livery. Jim Graziano finishes up for 7th. Looks like Mac McCormack should be able to hold on for 8th. And Bob Lang, who of course raced with HRG this past season, this past weekend rather, taking part in that special night race at Thompson in the real world. Graziano with some pretty significant damage on the car still manages to finish. Good job, Jim Graziano. McCormack will take 8th position. And Bob Lang is doing donuts. He's celebrating that 9. Way to go, Bob. Let's see if we can pick up Mac McCormack's accident from a couple laps ago. Oh, it looks like just late braking and he lost it. Damage to the wing, probably affecting his downforce. So there you have it. As we get a little bit of a replay of the start of the race, we'll see if our drivers are ready. Yes, Our drivers are out of their racing suits and ready to jump into the booth. So let's see if we can pull them in for some post-race interviews. And it looks like we have Darren Treacle, Jeff Underwood, and Stefan Vappa. Let's see if we can get our race winner. Where is Steve Ficacci?
He'll be here soon. He's being a dad for a moment.
Oh, yeah. Steve Ficacci wins the race, and he's the model parent. So, well, let's jump in then. Darren, incredible second place finish. 2 horrible starts tonight. What happened?
Well, I don't have a clutch, and I've got this like little joystick on my wheel that I've made the clutch. So, yeah. And I started in second gear to try to keep the wheel spin down. So that was my start debacle.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that's an amazing job in the feature race to hunt down Jeff and then Stefan. I was really surprised to see you get to Stefan, honestly, as much as he was hounding Ficacci. Stefan, it looked like maybe your tires were starting to go off a little bit.
I was kind of thinking the same thing. It felt like they would kind of come in and go out, and there were moments when I could pressure Steve and even stick a nose in, and then I would kind of have to let him cool off a little bit, and then I could pressure him again. And then I think towards the end there, I was starting to kind of try just maybe a tiny bit too hard. And at that point, I had no opportunity to really cool him down because Darren was right on my tail. But it's a fractional difference. It's the tires are really pretty good throughout the race. But yeah, but I mean, man, what fun that was! I mean, that was the closest racing we've had all season, I think.
Yeah, it was terrific. The top 4 were really all over each other the whole race. Jeff, you were, at least the first half of the race, you were right there, and I really thought you had a good shot for a podium. What happened?
I think Darren, we all basically were hanging out in Steve's draft for the first several laps, and Darren Stefan and Steve were battling a little bit, and that let Darren get up to us reasonably soon. And then I think there was an exchange somewhere where Steve and Stefan were kind of side by side racing, and it kind of tripped me up just a little bit, and that gave Darren a good enough run onto the long straight where he was able to get alongside, and then we had a nice little side by side going through 1 and 2, and he was able to make it stick. But and I thought I could hang on to their draft, and then I made a mistake in the last corner coming onto the straightaway that lost me like half a second, and it just seemed like I lost enough of their draft to where I just sort of fell back from there a little bit and was hemorrhaging like a couple tenths a second a lap, it looked like.
Yeah, it looked like you were being out of the draft was definitely costing you a little bit of lap time. I was actually a little surprised by that because I was figuring the aerodynamic wash was hurting the tires enough, but I guess the benefit from the draft was enough to overcome that.
Yeah, and this track, in some places, you can go a little bit slightly off on your line to keep a little bit of air on the car to where you're not getting impacted so bad, and it doesn't really affect you that much.
Well, all 4 of you did a great job tonight. It was really exciting to watch. Steve Ficacci, Super Dad, race winner, already series winner. You've looks like you've wrapped up the points for the season. What a night!
It went well. I think if Darren got his starts down a little bit, we'd be a little bit closer in the front. But yeah, the race went good. Stefan pressured me the whole race. I mean, the heat and the race, it wouldn't have taken much of a mistake on my part to change that race. But I was struggling with downshifts for whatever reason, and I kept going into the wrong gear, which exiting isn't terrible as long as you're ready for it. Like if you want to go to first and you go to second, you just gotta be ready and really smash on the gas, because a few of the corners you could kind of go either or. But it was the lack of turn-in I was getting by missing that first. So I was missing some apexes. I don't know if I was just going too fast because you know, I think there's 2, maybe 3 spots where you go from 5th to 1st, and for whatever reason, I just kept missing it, and it threw me off a little bit. But I got the hang of it towards the end, and I was telling the guys that like turn 2, you know, after turn 1, I really wanted to hit that flat. I felt like I could, and I didn't really get it till like 2-3 laps to go. And like I said, part of that was just me missing the apex on 1 because I was messing up my shifts. But yeah, I enjoy the way the race changes with this car. I don't know if everybody feels the same way, but like the first few laps are horrible. There's just no front steering. You just gotta wait for those tires to come in, and then you know, towards the end the car gets real fast. But it you know, the way I approach the lap changes a little bit throughout the race, and I find that fun. But yeah, no, one more race, but I have been enjoying this car.
Yeah, so you turned your fastest lap of the race right at the very end there. The only driver to get into the 125s. And Darren and Stefan, your fastest laps were identical, 126.28, pretty amazing. And Jeff, you were right there, 126.51. The performance for all 4 of you was there, just like Steve said. I think it was just a matter of who was going to make a mistake or not. And none of you really seemed to make any. I know, Jeff, you said you had that one bobble coming onto the straight. Other than that, incredible job by all of you. When Darren and Stefan were battling, I could have sworn you two touched a couple times. It was hard to tell from the cameras. Was there a touch?
There
Yes.
was one, I think.
One, yeah.
Yeah, in turn 1, I tried to puncture his tire, and I don't know. Maybe they haven't modeled that yet.
I've got run flats on.
That's it.
Well, it was a very exciting race. I had some technical difficulties during the broadcast, so the individual qualifying was an absolute wash. But you guys really made up for it with some incredible racing action in both the qualifying and especially the feature race. So thank you for covering for me. For myself, this is going to be my last broadcast of the season. I'll be stepping out next week, and my partner in crime, Ian Wisbin, will be jumping back into the booth again. So thank you for covering for me last week and next week, Ian. Thanks to all of you for once again putting on a great show, and I look forward to watching you guys next week at Sebring.
Long Beach.
Oh,
It's
it's Long Beach. That's right. You were at Sebring last week.
Long Beach. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah. Well,
You know, I'm looking forward to Long Beach, but I was thinking how we all struggled so much at Detroit. It'd be interesting to start our seasons and finish them on the same track.
Yes, it would. Yes, it would. Well, Long Beach should be pretty exciting in these cars. Let's hope it isn't a crash fest. The good news is that you've had the entire season to practice, so I think it'll be pretty clean.
Yeah, some of us won't have any practice coming into it, though, because we're going to be towing the Lime Rock on Thursday and have just gotten home on Monday night.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And Stefan, you will be racing at Lime Rock. What are you going to be on track in?
I'm going to take the Formula Ford, the Macon, and we're going to have 3 Macon MR7s on track at the same time at this race coming up. It'll be my first time to the festival. I'm pretty excited about that.
Well, that's fabulous, and we will be taking a week break because of the festival, but we'll be announcing Season 9 soon, so everyone stay tuned. Even the drivers here don't know what's coming, so they'll be as surprised as you are.
Darren's favorite.
All right, gentlemen, well, thanks for putting on a great race. I'll let you jump in the pub.
Thank you, Jim.
Good night.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks.
All right, once again, this was Jim Carabanis bringing you coverage from the Vintage Racer Group's Virtual Racer League Season 8 in the Lotus 79 Grand Prix of the Americas Series at Interlagos tonight. We hope you enjoyed the coverage. We do apologize for our technical difficulties during the individual qualifying. I surely hope that the terrific racing action tonight made up for it. Have a good night, and next week, Ian Wisbin will be leading the broadcast. Thanks for joining us as always.